Welcome to selfdiscoveryradio.com, where the orchard of wisdom is just ready for picking. We celebrate your why, the journey that you've taken that inspires someone else. We support your services, we support your story. Come and be our guest, become a host, be an author with us. Come and see what we've got. Our next show is...
Welcome to Holistic Transformations. I'm your host, Diane J. Shaver, and by working together, we can change the world. We're brought to you by Turn Your Great Idea into Dollars, a 7-week online course with 40-plus page workbook, taking you each step of the way from concept to up and running business based on your personal business model that fits for you. On each of the Holistic Transformations show, I interview someone who's really out there doing something that's making a change in the world, that has impact on the world. And their actions are based on a really deep belief of doing good for the many. And hopefully they will inspire you to do whatever it is you want to do to help. So today's guest is definitely a great demonstration of that statement. The first thing you see on the RLS website, which stands for Renewable Sustainable Living, is a statement which sets a tone for his business. And here it is. Imagine for a moment a community with homes and businesses powered by the sun, sustained by organic gardens, and founded on recycling principles. With everything that's going on, climate change, all the things that are impacting everybody right now, we need this. And the man behind all of this is Mark Clayton, who builds what he calls net zero farm housing communities. And I'm going to let him explain what those are, because he can do it far better than I can. But I want to share some of his background with you so you can see kind of the stepping stones to get where he is today. So he's owned several companies. One of them is Alfred Tiger Inc. It was an engineering manufacturing development company. And they supplied the automotive manufacturers with electroplating services and electronic ceramic components. And they developed 2 US patents, which are still current. Then he and his wife created restaurants that served, one of the first that served organic, all organic food, his wife Carol, and they had several locations in Greenville, South Carolina. So that was another chapter in his life. Then Alfred Tiger Engineering was developed, and it develops, demonstrates, and deploys cutting-edge renewable energy products and systems, including electric and clean fuel transportation. And now he is the founder and managing partner of Renewable Sustaining Living. So when I asked Mark to send me a bio, this is what he sent me, and this will give you a look into the heart, the imagination, the energy of the man behind all of this. So this is what he sent me as his bio. That I am son, brother, cousin, nephew, uncle, husband, dad, father-in-law, friend, and now Papa Mark, he's a grandpa. Student, athlete, Eagle Scout, dedicated employee, church leader, engineer, inventor, entrepreneur, restaurateur, developer, street preacher, student, follower, servant, and leader. But I'm going to let him tell you what he's involved in right now and the road he took to get there. So please welcome Mark Clayton. Welcome, Mark. And we want to know what your focus is now and how did you arrive at it?
And I had closed our last restaurant, and I was in search of the next thing that I was going to spend my time doing. God gave me the vision to develop food, energy, and housing from a renewable, sustainable perspective. And because I've owned a lot of businesses in my career, I've written a lot of business plans. And so I set out to basically put pen to paper, because I'm old school.
That's good.
Look like. Well, what we have developed over the course of the last 7 years are 3 distinct business models. And the first of those is the net zero farm community concept. In zero farm community, we build and sell passive and active solar homes. So the client owns the home and owns the lot that it sits on.
Okay.
But in the community, we're putting in a production organic farm. We're going to be building 3 acres of outdoor raised bed gardens that are USDA certified organic.
Wow.
And with that, we're building a 4,000 square foot hydroponics unit so that we can have year-round growing of a lot of specialty items that you can only grow in a controlled environment. And somewhere near the community, we will build a farm market that features local farmers and their produce. And the intent of the farmers market is to highlight local and keeping the carbon footprint truly low.
Cool.
So the community, the way it will work is that the clients who buy the homes, and by the way, our first community is going up in Greer, South Carolina. We're going to be building 16 homes on 12 acres in that community. And we've got 15 of the 16 already pre-sold.
Congrats.
So,
great.
Yeah, and the concept has been wonderful. When we started this whole process, we knew that it was a niche market, but our bet was the niche was way bigger than most people realize.
Right.
And it's been to be so. So these 16 homes, in exchange for them providing assistance with our working our farm in the community, they'll not only get their veggies free, but the joint partnership between my company, RSL, and the HOA will pay their utility bills. So the folks in our community will have no utility bills.
Cool.
And which is a wonderful thing. And as part of the process, we're basically going to be pre-selling most everything that we grow in the community to restaurants and chefs, and probably have some community sustained agriculture groups that basically will pay a monthly fee and come get their veggies periodically.
So is there going to be enough for everybody, for the homeowners and all the restaurants and all these? It's just a lot of veggies that you're talking about here.
Well, that's a very good question, Diane. The whole model for the farm is based on a good friend of mine who has a demonstration garden at Furman University in Greenville, South Carolina.
Yeah.
Bruce has a 1/4 acre outdoor raised bed garden that is USDA certified organic, meaning that it was built with mulch and compost and good soil. No chemicals, no any bad stuff going into the soil.
Good.
And Bruce's 1/4 acre grosses $75,000 a year. And
how is he getting this? Is he selling to restaurants, and what is he doing with it?
He is selling through local farmers markets. He is selling to restaurants, and we have a wonderful biking trail in Greenville called the Swamp Rabbit Trail. And smack dab in the middle of the trail is a wonderful little cafe called the Swamp Rabbit Cafe that only sells organic produce and good, wholesome food for us to consume.
Sure.
So it's through those folks that Bruce grosses this $75,000.
Okay.
So if you blow it up to an acre, that's $300,000 an acre. And our rationale is that by having 3 acres of outdoor raised bed gardens, at worst, we'll grow north of $500,000 a year, which is more than enough for us to pay our salaries, to pay all the folks who will be assisting us with the farm, and to pay the utility bills for the folks living in the community. So there's going to be more than enough food to go around.
Tell me, one thing I'm curious about. How are there other ways that the community interacts? Is there another part of a model for this, or is it just through the gardening that they interact? Is there some kind of an intentional community in some way?
There is. This property that we're developing in Greer is a beautiful, it was basically truly a diamond in the rough that had gotten overlooked for many years.
Right.
It's actually be like living in a park, because we only cleared enough space to build the houses so that we would have no shade on our solar panels. But in the middle of the community, we've got basically over 3,000 feet of creek front that runs through the property, where we're going to develop walking trails. We'll have bridges over the creeks to connect the whole community. And it'll be an inviting place for the city of Greer around us to come and check out.
Cool. So is that going to be part of the model? In other words, why don't you explain to us and our listeners and viewers what the whole model is, like the scope of it? So how would you explain this? Like, you're going to set up another one and you were going to talk to somebody about it. What would you say about it?
Well, we intend to perfect this first ever model in Greer. And
Okay.
then our next target is Charleston, South Carolina. And the beauty of this model that we've developed is that by impacting food and energy and housing from a renewable, sustainable perspective,
Yeah.
that winds up being on average 60+% of the average family's budget. So if you can dramatically lower a family's budget, then not only impact their checkbook, but you also impact their lifestyle. You
Their
impact
consciousness, really.
exactly, and you give them good food. The more we learn about how bad GMOs and chemicals are that are littered throughout the food that we consume, how bad it is for our bodies, we're actually improving their health. We're improving their wealth. We're improving the contribution to climate change, which is very real.
It is real, unfortunately, yes.
I mean, I'm an engineer and I'm data driven, and the data does not lie. So these are the ways that we're going to impact, food, energy, and housing. And by duplicating this net zero farm community model in many places, we're basically taking baby steps, but we're taking positive steps to improve people's lives.
I love that. So what's the grand vision? Is there another part of this that you're going to grow into? Is this going to kind of be complete in itself and then you'll be on to something else that will be great? Or what do you see this becoming?
Make sure.
Okay.
There you are. Now, are you back?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've been here. You left. I've been here. Okay, Zoom may have done its thing, because I can't hear. I see you, but I can't hear you right now. So we'll wait a second and see what happens with Zoom. Okay, can you hear me, Mark? Because I've lost the audio with you and your video is no longer moving. You are a still right now. Oops, I lost you completely. Okay. Waiting for Mark. I don't know where he went. Let's see if I can get him here. Hey,
Hey, Diane.
yeah, what happened?
I'm having technical difficulties.
Okay,
Reception. I'm trying to restart
okay.
the
As I,
right back with you. Just a second.
yeah, it's edited, so we're okay.
Yeah, I've been having problems for the last several months with my Wi-Fi connection to my cell tower.
Okay.
I've had to reset it several times. Pain in the rear.
It's gotta be, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's not like they've installed like 5 new towers up our way. I don't really understand. But
Anyway,
I'm coming back on.
cool.
So are we good so far?
I'm sorry? Yeah, we're good so far. And then it will get edited. I'll explain to Sarah, who does all of that, what's happened. And so she can cut out that section. So fortunately, it's not live, so we're good. Sarah, while you're editing, Mark had some problems with, he's in the mountains, and so he had problems with reception, so he's trying to get it back, and we apologize, but mountains are stronger than anything, so it is what it is. So we're that's why you see just me sitting here, drinking water, whatever I'm doing. So we're waiting for the mountains to be kind again.
Yeah, here it comes.
Yeah.
Okay, so Mark, what we were talking about before the mountains rudely interrupted us and stopped reception, the concept right now for zero net farming community is really solid and wonderful. And what I wonder is do you have more that it's going to become, or is this going to stay pretty much the way it is with each individual place being slightly different, and then kind of taking it to another level, or leaving it be?
Well, that's a good question, Diane. We, as I mentioned earlier, we've got 3 distinct business models. The first one is the net zero farm community, housing community. The next one is a manufacturing of mobile tiny homes that are also off the grid.
Okay, that you did not tell us about. Wait a minute, go back to that. What tell us about that? You knew it, we didn't know it.
Well, again, there are 3 distinct business models: net zero farm communities, net zero mobile tiny homes,
Okay.
and then a net zero experiential center. Now, let me back up and explain what net zero mobile is.
Yeah.
In 2016, we built an off-the-grid mobile tiny home on a 27-foot trailer that turned out fabulously. And as you well know, in California, real estate prices are crazy. And we've got a number of friends and contacts out there. There are people that work in Silicon Valley who have 6- and 7-figure incomes who cannot afford to buy a house.
Yeah.
And so the way the tiny home movement works, I lost you again.
Okay, yeah. We're losing you again, I think.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. And you're kind of frozen. I can hear you. You're kind of frozen. But well, I mean, if that's how it's going to be, we have your beautiful face there, and we'll just listen to you. And when you get back to it, it'll move again.
Okay, well, let's keep talking about the net zero farm community, the mobile tiny homes.
Yeah.
We see that, we're going to set up a manufacturing facility somewhere in the middle of the country, preferably Wichita, Kansas, because I have a granddaughter who lives there. and it's smack dab in the middle of the country. And we're going to manufacture mobile tiny homes there. And then we're going to target Californians and the Southwest to basically let them come in once we build the structure and custom design the interior. And then we'll either haul it back to California for them, or they can pick it up and drive it themselves. And what we're going to do in California is I've got friends out there who are looking for property to develop RV parks, if you would. Because the way the whole tiny home movement works is that it's treated as an RV park, because you can pick it up and take it, if you decide to move it.
Sure.
And so this is a way to basically provide a lower cost alternative to housing.
Do you have a price range right now yet for what they will be?
On the East Coast, the one that we built in 2016 basically had 300 square feet inside. It was built to standard residential code, so we had like 9-foot ceilings in it, and had a full-size bathroom, full-size kitchen, and loft and small den area.
Okay.
And those would sell for right at $75,000.
Okay.
Right now, the only manufacturer of these things is Clayton Homes, which is a division of Berkshire Hathaway. Warren Buffett owns that.
Yeah.
And they've got a production facility in Alabama that just cannot keep up. They've actually got a 2-year backlog in building these things. So the opportunity is tremendous. So what we want to do is we want to jump into that game after we get the net zero farm community model up and running.
Sure.
So that's somewhere in the mid-range, like the next 2 to 5 years.
Okay.
That we'll on that. And then our third business model is actually, we call it the Net Zero Experiential Center, which is an off-the-grid hotel convention center.
Okay.
That on the ground we'll have demonstration passive and active solar homes. We'll have an actual electric vehicle dealership on site so that we can promote EVs.
Sure.
And in the hotel complex, through the week, we'll hold weekly seminars that are dedicated to renewable energy, sustainable agriculture, and recycling principles. And then on the weekends, because we'll have some wonderful, cool tree houses and zip lines that run through the treetops, we'll throw it open as a weekend getaway for the local area.
Cool.
So it's going to be a really cool thing. And that's something that we've got 3 primary targets. We've actually got a target here in Greenville, and we've got one in Charleston, and then we've got one in San Jose, California.
Wow. And when is that? What's the time frame for that one?
That one is probably in the next 3 to 7 years. We see the development of the progression happening with getting at least 2 or 3 net zero farm communities first.
Okay.
And then develop the manufacturing along the way for the mobile tiny homes. And then at some point in time, as we get business model 2, the mobile tiny homes up and running, then we'll turn our attention to the experiential center.
Wow. So people are going to want to know, how do you come up with these things? What is it that led you to the first thing? And what was the progression? What was the thought? And then the next thought, and then all of a sudden there was net zero farming community.
Well, I have to go back 37 years now.
Okay.
When I graduated from Clemson University, go Tigers, national championship. It was 1982, and Ronald Reagan had only been president for 2 years, and the economy was not fully recovered yet. And so I went to work for a company locally here in Greenville that built passive solar homes. And that's when I was first introduced to the concept.
Okay.
After that, I went to work as an engineer, lived in the Midwest, lived in Chicago, and eventually found my way back to South Carolina. And I've always been fascinated with solar energy. And so I've always stayed abreast of the latest, greatest technology and developments. As a matter of fact, I have two sons that are also Clemson alumni. And while they were in school, I actually taught a senior level course at Clemson for solar energy. And so, but along the way, my wife and I got sidetracked into the restaurant business.
That is a sidetrack for sure. And time-consuming sidetrack.
It is. My wife is also an engineer, and we used to tell everybody that came into our restaurants that we're living proof God's got a sense of humor. Two engineers in the restaurant business. So we wound up doing a 12-year run in the restaurant business, and developed a lot of good friends and a lot of good memories. But very thankful to be out of the restaurant business now, because it's a tough business.
It is a very tough 24/7 business.
Oh, it is. And so that's kind of where our food component was developed. And
Did you have organic food then, or was that something that came later?
It actually is. This is another driver, because the supply of organic food does not even come close to meeting the demand.
Yeah.
So it's what makes the Whole Foods business model so successful, is because, you know, there's just, the demand is greater than the supply.
Sure.
So our way of addressing the supply component is to build in our own organic farms within each community, so that bit by bit we're doing our part.
Right. But in your restaurant, were you aware of organic food then? Did you use it in your restaurant? People weren't as aware back then.
Oh, absolutely. And the restaurant was called Manna Deli. And in the Bible, manna fell from heaven every day, and the only time that you could hold it over was over the weekends, basically, and because otherwise it would spoil. So the essence and the name had very much meaning, because my wife founded the restaurant, was fresh every day. So we served fresh made food every day. We sought out the best local fresh ingredients for everything that she made. And so we were on the beginning edge of it, and whenever we could get organic, yes, we served organic.
Wow.
So we developed a lot of good contacts with local farmers, so that we were able to go out and garner the supply that we needed for our restaurants. So yes, we were on the kind of beginning curve of that.
That's cool. And I'm thinking, how, in some ways, people are going to be thinking this. So, and that's why I'm doing this show. But it's like, that's a small piece of what needs to happen in this planet. But how are you impacting other people and inspiring other people so that they go off and do their part to create something that's sustainable, organic, renewable, whatever? So how does that work?
Well, I've got to say this to preface your answer. Over the last 7 years, I've had tons of people tell me, Mark, listening to you talk about all this stuff is like drinking water from a fire hose.
Love it.
In massive quantities, and it's like people get that starry-eyed look and say, wow, you got so many moving parts to this. But you come back to the central point of addressing food, energy, and housing from a renewable, sustainable perspective.
Yeah.
So as we've marched along this path, and been able to develop multiple pieces of the business plan, we have encountered basically a global audience. I'm very big on LinkedIn. I've got right at 1,200 network partners in my LinkedIn network.
Good.
I'm very intentional with it. I don't treat it as Facebook. I treat it as a business tool. And so I've got experts in every area of what I'm dealing with around the world. So what I'm doing is I'm building up a basically a roster, you would, of people who come and speak at the experiential center when we finally get it built. So we've been able to impact, because as more and more people have heard about the net zero farm housing community, it's opened up avenues to talk about the other business models and to basically give people a basic understanding of, okay, we got a lot of moving parts, we got a lot of stuff going on, but we have to start somewhere. And where we started, really, as far as the process, was 2016 when we built the mobile tiny home, because the materials that we used to build it with, we're building the homes in the net zero farm community with the same materials. So we got our experience base with that part. And so we're very close to beginning building the 16 homes in this community. So, we've encountered a lot of people who are just totally sold out onto living in a community where there's organic food being produced. We're totally sold out on, people are totally sold out on the fact that we use renewable energy, that we're not dependent on the grid. We are connected to natural gas and water and sewer in our community, and to satisfy bank underwriters, we are connecting to the electrical grid as backup only. And so through our work on the renewable energy side of the equation, I've got 7 different business units under our holding company umbrella. And the 4th unit is our RSL Energy and Construction. And that unit owns and maintains all the energy equipment within the net zero farm community. That's on us. And so that's part of the package that we offer. And so as a result of that, I'm currently, and you'll be the first to hear about this. We're currently, through RSL Energy and Construction, working on, with partners in Sierra Leone, to develop microgrids over the entire continent of Africa.
Oh, we talked about that when I had the opportunity to sit with you, so that we were talking about cell phones. I need someplace to plug in their cell phone, and that's it.
Exactly. Well, since I last saw you, Diane, the opportunity has got even bigger. Our partners in Sierra Leone would like very much for us to take a look at some other projects. We of course see the opportunity and the demand and the need more than anything is for microgrid, because Nigeria, for example, 55% of the country does not have consistent electricity, even though economically Nigeria is the 21st largest economy in the world because of their vast natural resources. But over half of their people don't have a consistent electricity. So, we're looking at it from our viewpoint as a way to help. And if we do that well, then it'll also introduce net zero farm communities, because you can do it anywhere on the planet. And the beauty of the net zero farm community model is it scales. We have an affordable housing component that we're developing as well, based off of the net zero farm community. So we can help the working poor, the veterans, public servants, people who are at the bottom of the rung economically. Because the best pathway that most Americans have to wealth is their home ownership. That's everybody's piggy bank. And so we want to, that's where, our model impacts a whole nother segment, is to be able to help people develop wealth through home ownership.
And
one of the,
when we're through, at some point, I have somebody who is creating product that will be usable for you in building. So we will talk about that, and that's in India. So
Oh, please. Yeah, good.
it
Yeah,
just
I have a number of Indian contacts in my LinkedIn network, and a number of friends here in Greenville are from India.
cool.
Yeah, and that's a good point, Diane, because you know, I'm an engineer and pre-entrepreneur. I did a lot of work with the automotive industry. I have 2 patents related to automotive products. And so when I would travel to meet with the automotive manufacturers, I'd always sit down with the design guy first,
Right.
and I'd ask them the question, have you ever worked on a car before? And of course, they like I was crazy. What kind of question is that?
It's
And
a perfect question.
I'd always respond, well, if you ever worked on a car, you would design it totally differently, because they don't design them to be able to work on them.
Get at things. Yeah, they're hidden underneath something else.
That's the truth. And so you wind up having to take half the car apart just to get to a minor part. And so my concept with designing the passive solar homes and even designing the hydroponics facility is to be able to have an easy to build design. But more importantly, we continue to have an ever increasing development of technology. Just over the horizon, there are solar panels that are going to double and even triple in efficiency compared to where we are now. So I want, as we move along this timeline and this vision, I want us to be able to go back in and deploy the latest, greatest technology for whatever we're currently working on.
Yeah.
So the next community is in, say, Charleston, and we get that done a year from now. And say in the next 6 months, the opportunity comes up to deploy even better solar panels, then that's what we're going to do.
Sure.
Because we want to be a demonstration site. By doing this, that makes the Net Zero Experiential Center even more relevant, because everybody who is drawn to that seminar, that hotel, or that, or people can just fly in from wherever and design their own home, and then we will help them find a builder who will build that home for them. And so, by doing this, we actually are audacious enough to think of ourselves as the next Home Depot of renewable, sustainable living.
I love that.
And, basically a one-stop shop to where you can do all things related to renewable, sustainable, and even recycling.
One of the things I love about all your concepts, they build there. It's a really geometric progression, but each thing builds on the next, on the next, on the next, and you get experience by doing the first project, and that helps you do the second project, and the next, and the next, and the next. And it all feeds into this vision. And correct me if I'm wrong, the vision grows. The vision is not static.
Amen.
Yeah.
We haven't even talked about our nonprofit.
Well, let's do that.
Yeah. Our nonprofit is our second business unit, and it was founded to do 2 things. It was founded to build affordable housing for the working poor, but it's also has a street ministry component, which is when I label myself as a street preacher. I have a group of folks that we lead a Tuesday night Street Friends ministry in downtown Greenville, South Carolina, where we go out and we build relationship with the homeless. And out of that, we've been able to transition over the course of the last 3 years about 25 people from the streets back into a productive life. And one of the things that we've developed, and again, this speaks directly to what you just said about, experience leads to, the experience base to do the next thing. As a result of our street ministry, we now know the do's and don'ts of how to really help people. And you can only learn that by getting out there and doing it.
Like anything in life, that's how you learn, by really getting out and doing it, not reading about it.
Absolutely, absolutely. I had a good friend who's very, very successful, and the first question he asked a young person who wants him to be their mentor is like, are you failing? And they and him like, hey, am I failing? He said, well, if you're not failing, you're not trying, and you're not trying hard enough.
Right.
And if you're not failing, you're not attempting a big enough thing to accomplish.
Absolutely. And you're not an entrepreneur, for one thing, and that's the first thing.
Absolutely. So you cannot be afraid of failure. You just have to dive in sometimes and do it. So as a result of our street ministry, what has been birthed is what we call the Transition Center. And I've done a lot of research on homelessness, primarily in Portland, Oregon, and in Austin, Texas. They've got some really good programs for the homeless there. But there's a magic number of 2 years that if you can come alongside someone and re-educate them, house them, feed them, hold their hands, mentor them for a 2-year period of time, the success rates start to get into the upper 80 percentile. So
it just hit me when you said that. What you're doing is you're reparenting. And a lot of people end up where they are because of trauma and unresolved childhood issues. I mean, it impacts all of us. We're all dealing with it for the rest of our lives. But that's what you do. You reparent them, like you nurture them.
Amen. And that you're spot on. That's exactly right. Because the Bible says the issues of life spring forth from the heart. And so many people have wounded hearts. And unless you start with the heart and repair that, then it's an uphill battle to do anything else.
Because you're not addressing the core issue. And that's,
you're not.
Yeah.
And as an engineer, I kind of consider myself to be a solutions provider. You cannot provide solutions until you get at the root cause of the problem. Absolutely. Anything else is just a Band-Aid. Absolutely. And you're not going to heal it, and you're not going to fix it.
One of the things that strikes me about what you're doing, for a lot of people, the homeless are just uncomfortable. I think about when I'm walking down King Street and there are people sitting on the sidewalk saying, I'm homeless, and most people they won't talk to them. They pretend they're not there. It's like it doesn't exist. And that to me is part of our culture of a closed heart. Those are not bad people that are walking by, but their hearts are not open. Absolutely.
And again, we address this head on every Tuesday night. And what we've been able to do successfully is that we don't go down and thump the Bible at them. We don't go down and condemn them. We basically go down and we build relationship. And over the course of time, we've gotten to know them. They've gotten to know us. Yeah. They trust us. And I'll tell you a real good example. 2 years ago, we really didn't take names. We just knew everybody kind of by first name. And if you know about street people, a lot of them have records, and the police or somebody's looking for them, and so they don't readily give out their names or their info. Well, we heard on the local news that a homeless person had gotten killed, and it so upset me that I didn't know who it was. Was it one of mine? Who was it? So the next Tuesday when we went out, I told them, I said, we love you too much. It just drove me crazy, because this happened on a Friday night, and I had to wait till the next Tuesday. Yeah. And it was one of mine that had gotten killed. And so I told him, I said, I'm not going to go through another weekend like that. So I want all of you to give us your name. And so I had one of the folks that, routinely goes with me to take their names. Well, in a parallel world, there ain't no way they would be giving you their name. They all signed up, every one of them. gave us name, gave us their last name, told us a little bit about them, told us where we can find them routinely. And that came about because we had built trust.
Yeah.
We didn't go down and we didn't condemn them. So, that is a model, and you are so spot on, because no matter where you go, every municipality basically treats it in the same way. Folks, it makes them uncomfortable when you see somebody on the street, and
you know why they're afraid that it could be them. That's why.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly. My mama used to tell me all the time, son, there but the grace of God go I. And there are no two people that we meet with, and we minister to about 50 people every Tuesday night. And that's just scratching the surface without the real number that's out there. But there are no two people out there for the same reasons.
Yeah.
A lot of addiction issues. There's a lot of financial issues. We've got this one lady. Her son is in a wheelchair, a full-blown quadriplegic. Don't know what happened to him. If he'd been that way his whole life, but basically she went bankrupt, and she lost and trying to take care of her son. Her husband left because he couldn't take the pressure, and so here is this mother out on the streets, homeless, with a son who looked to be early teens, in a wheelchair. This is our society, and this is a condemnation on our society. In the greatest country on earth, this should not be happening. Yep. And you say, the common response is, oh well, we've got Salvation Army, and around here we've got Miracle Hill, and we've got United Ministries, and we've got a number of it.
It doesn't touch it.
Oh, it doesn't touch it. And yes, we do have those, and yes, they do a wonderful work, but they're all maxed out. They are maxed out, and there's just a whole huge number of folks. And so that's where the transition center comes back in, because you constantly hear about people in and out of rehab, and then you hear about guys getting out of prison, and very shortly they're right back in jail because there's nothing to catch them. There's nothing to, redirect them, to retrain them.
The core issue that we talked about, they're not addressing the core issue.
They're not addressing core issues. And so if we can develop transition centers that basically catch them, help them get back into a productive life, break that cycle of going back to the old ways, what happens is that we begin to clear out the backlog.
Yeah.
We begin to put the agencies that are out there doing a good work into a more functioning position to where they can help the current need in front of them, because the others have been processed out. I'm sorry, that was
I jumped. I mean, if anybody watching me and you saw me jump, that was it. There was a noise, and I went like, whoop.
That was my tablet telling me that an email or something just came in. I need to cut that thing off.
Thank you. Unless you want to watch me jump again. I mean, I don't want to deprive you.
Well, at least I know you're awake now.
Awake.
Yeah, so, and it all ties together, and again, here's the point in time when a lot of people will look at me and say, Mark, wow, you got a lot of things going on. And it's like, no, I've got a wonderful support group around me, a wonderful team of folks that help me. And as we've marched along this path, more and more people have joined. And so
nice.
Backing up to, who do we help and how do we help? Well, we help the client who buys one of our homes, or eventually will buy one of our tiny homes, or who comes to a seminar at the experiential center. Because chances are, one of the graduates of the transition center is going to be one of the folks manufacturing that tiny home. They're going to be one of the folks that are going to be the I call it my quarterback, my farm manager in the community, because we have to develop, for each community, we have to develop a farm manager, who will coordinate all the activities. We have to develop a maintenance manager, somebody that'll be taking care of the energy equipment. We have to train people to install solar. We have to train people to grow organically. We have to train people to have good culinary skills so that they can work in our farm market and our kitchen there. We waste so much in this country, and it's just absolutely unconscionable. So what we're trying to become is, and I describe this as, I've got 7 business units, but I've also have got a whole list of consortium members, like-minded businesses that we're all joining together to accomplish the vision. So what I describe RSL is trying to become is the platform from which many people can get on to accomplish the mission. So I'm just simply building the platform.
One of the things I've been thinking so much is that with everything going on and the pockets of places where things are just falling apart in this country, but other countries too, it's not just us, that the more we bring people together there, and these huge numbers of people who have a consciousness, who want to make a difference. So what you're doing and bringing together is something, it's been a dream of mine forever to do that, so that these people begin dialoguing and begin incubating ideas and extending their ideas out more than they even thought, because they're coming across somebody else who just says this thing and that thing, and it's like it explodes for them. So this is perfect, absolutely perfect.
I can't, and you're again spot on, Diane. I can't tell you how many times on a Tuesday night somebody will happen to hear about us, want to come help, and they'll call me and they'll say, Mark, we'd love to be involved with something like this. What do we do? How do we do it? And I said, well, just come join us on Tuesday night, kind of hang out with us, see what we do, and just take it from there. And when we go out on Tuesday nights, we've got no less than 7 to 10 people that kind of are on my side of the equation. Nice. That are there to support. And what it does, even if they don't say a word, it demonstrates to our homeless friends, and by the way, I don't often refer to them as homeless friends. We call our street ministry the Tuesday night friends. That it demonstrates to them that there are people who care. And what the average person doesn't fully realize is that when you fall that low, and you've got a police record, you don't have an ID, you don't have an address, you don't have transportation, guess what? You ain't getting a job, because nowadays you got to have at least an address to get a job.
Sure.
And that's why a lot of the relief agencies will allow certain folks that they admit into their program, like Salvation Army, to use their address to get the job.
Cool.
But then, if the job is outside the bus path where the city buses run, guess what? Now you're challenged with transportation. So
I should put you together. That somebody who pitched at one of my events, I had pitch events for entrepreneurs, and what she was doing, it was share a ride kind of thing. I should put her together with you.
Yes.
Maybe you can figure out something to launch her even more. But what her thing was, for people who work like at a Boeing or something like that, they're driving that way anyway, and if they could take somebody with them who needed a job but didn't have transportation and it was on the path, they could share a ride. So I'll put you together with her too. So
that would be wonderful, because what we've been able to do, we have 2 houses in Greer that basically is our ministry office, if you would, and we've got 5 people who live there. Well, we've been able to, this has been wonderful. We had an elderly couple that just had to move into an assisted living facility. Yeah. Well, they donated their minivan to us. So about 2 months ago, they gave us a 2004 Toyota Sienna minivan, like brand new. I mean, so now one of the folks being in one of the houses that we have in Greer has transportation. So he's constantly taking people to meetings and to doctor's appointments and that sort of thing as part of his giving back, to the ministry.
Wow.
And so, and next Saturday, I'm going to pick up a fifth wheel RV that this other couple is donating to us.
Nice.
And one of the couples who live in the house, one of our houses in Greer, are going to take that RV sometime in April, and we're kicking them out of the nest. So they're going to take the RV and move into the RV sometime in April.
Cool.
It's been really cool to see the outpouring because we have so many people. Basically, the right hand doesn't know what the left is doing. And we have a number of good-hearted people that want to do something. They just don't know where to start. And so
let me ask you one question here. It's been popping up over and over and over again, so sorry to interrupt.
Oh, no worries.
What is it that you have learned from this? What does it give to you? Because something like this, when we give a lot, we get a lot back. So what is it that all of this has given to you? That I'm thinking of the ministry right now. What has that given to you?
Well, the Bible says it is more blessed to give than it is to receive.
Those are words. So what is the visceral thing? Because I want people to understand that they're not being suckers when they give, that it's a good thing to give, Yep,
that's a very good point. And where I was going with that other was that I am so blessed that, I have when I finish my day, and it's usually about 10 o'clock at night on Tuesdays, I am drained because it drains you of a lot. Even though you may not physically be doing a lot, it drains you.
Sure.
But I have such a wonderful peace and calm that I've done my part. But there are, the pleasure that comes from knowing that you've really, truly helped change a life. I can't put a price tag on that. I can't put a value to that. But that's probably the best way I can describe what I get from it.
What have you learned? What have you learned? Because there are lessons in it for you too. What have you learned?
Yeah, good point. I'm totally got that. I'm sorry.
That's my job. My job is to go.
I had an age moment there. What we've learned is tremendous amounts. First of all, my suggestion, I really, I don't want to hurt anybody, but when you see somebody on the side of the road and that's holding that poor, pitiful little sign, they're only looking for money to go to the drug dealer or to the liquor store. That's where that cash goes. Really, it really does. And I'd be willing to bet the farm that 90+% of the folks that are standing there, they're basically just panhandling to get cash to feed their addiction. That's probably lesson number one. So we've developed over the years 3 simple rules. We don't give them cash, we don't give them rides in our car, and we don't let them use our cell phones. And the third one, the cell phone thing, was kind of like, well, what does that mean? Well, I used to do it liberally, because they'd say, well, I need to call so and so, I need to call so and so. Until the day that I got a call from the Renewable police wanting to know why my number was wound up in a known drug dealer's phone. And so,
not good.
Not good. So that's the lesson we learned there.
What have you learned about yourself? Did you learn anything about yourself and who you are and life and the world?
I have to say, Diane, that it's been a realization of probably 50+ years that I've known, that I was supposed to be doing something on this scale. Okay. But what God was really doing was taking me along various places to educate me, because when this whole vision started, the word that I got is that it's going to take the sum total of every experience you've ever had to be able to accomplish this mission. And so far, that's been the case. So I learned, the beauty of what I've learned about me is that, oh, okay, that's why I spent 12 years in the restaurant business. Oh, that's why I spent 5 years working with the automotive industry. Oh, that's why I had to go through this and to do this. And so it's a wonderful thing. Yeah, I just turned 60 last month, and it's a very nice thing to be able to look back and really understand why you went through what you went through.
Yeah.
Because I'm a big believer that no experience is wasted if you learn from it. Now, if you don't learn from it and you continue to,
You'll do it again.
you're truly insane, because that's what Einstein said. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, because it ain't going to happen. So if you want a different tomorrow, you got to do something different today. And so I've got my 5th grandbaby on the way that'll be here in May.
Congrats.
And I sent you my biopic. That's my 4 grandbabies that I have now. And I cherish no role more than Papa Mark. And I just melt when my granddaughters come running up to me and say, Papa Mark, you got chocolate ice cream? Of course, Papa Mark's got chocolate ice cream.
I'm an easy Mark, no pun intended.
They can ask me whatever they want, and I'll bend over backwards to make it happen.
I'm sure.
But no, I've reached a stage in my life to where I've been blessed, and I've been put in this role. But I like to refer to myself sometimes as a dot connector, because I have people come into my life, and I kind of understand, why did this person cross my path? Am I supposed to do something? Real good case in point. My partner, who's my builder, Pete Froggett, and I visited with an awesome young man, and I wholeheartedly suggest that you interview him in the future.
Oh, good. Let me know.
Fun. He's a 35-year-old young man who has been developing what's called the Treehouse Internatural concept. He's basically a permaculturist, and permaculture means permanent agriculture.
Sure.
Basically taking native species and all kinds of sorts of things. But he is totally all about what we're about: renewable energy, sustainable agriculture, recycling, repurposing, if you would. And this man is 10 years into his business model, and he's got a lot of good things going on. And after spending about 5 hours with him on Wednesday, we've decided that there's a lot of things that we have good synergy between us. And so we've kind of come along at a point in time to where he can help us. And by the way, with the net zero farm community, he's going to become permaculture design person. He's going to help us design the ecology in the center of the net zero farm communities. Nice. So that when we go to the next community, we can take the existing landscape and incorporate native species and the native environment, and not be invasive.
Yeah.
Not be a traditional developer where we come in, buy a piece of property, and rake the land, cut every tree down, and then build it back up. We want to work within the environment as it is. And
that
so
heals the planet too. I mean, you're also healing the planet at that point, because it needs its native stuff that's there for a reason. And the whole ecology, the animals and everything are around that, the bees, all of that stuff. Yeah.
That's a big amen. That's a big amen. So I'll get you Scott's information, but his name's Scott Hunt. He is got a treehouse complex, and he's actually got a really cool house that he built, and he does Airbnb. So let me give a big plug for that. It's Treehouse Internatural. and I think .com is the website. But he's got a number of places, and this is on Lake Hartwell, so it's a beautiful environment. And he's got a tree house attached to the upper level of the house he's built. It's like a big bed and breakfast inn, and it's just a really cool thing. So yeah,
Wonderful.
And I'm trying to help as much as I can.
I'm sorry. So what do you want us to take away from our conversation with you? What are the things you want people to take into their hearts from what you've been talking about?
I always ask this question: if you were going to eat an elephant, how would you eat it?
Yes,
one at a time. And what we're doing is one bite at a time. We're doing a little bit here, a little bit here, a little bit here, and by the time you get enough little bits together, it's a lot. And so we need all hands on deck the world over to be conscious that, we can't continue to pump CO2 into the atmosphere and expect climate to change. Case in point, I live in the upper part of South Carolina, and our area normally gets about 42 inches of rain in a year.
Oh.
We had 145 inches last year.
Yeah.
140. And it's because the weather patterns have totally shifted. And people, who don't believe in climate change, they don't understand, first of all, what climate means. Climate is basically a compilation, if you would, of weather data points. It takes like from 1850 to 2018 and compares day by day what the temperatures are, what the weather patterns are, and that's how we've arrived at climate change. That's why, it's undeniable that the number of and frequency of storms on the coastal areas has increased. It's undeniable that cities are now planning. If it's not real, why are they planning for water levels to rise? Why, the encroachment on beaches, is increasing.
Yep.
If it's not real, then why is the city of New York making all the plans that they're making? Why is Boston making the plans they're making?
Yeah. And Rhode Island had to redo their coastline. They
Absolutely.
Remap it. And it's called the Ocean State because we're surrounded by, I'm from there. We're surrounded by water. They had to remap it because of the encroaching ocean.
That's right. And so it's real. So everything we're doing is a little bit that impacts, hopefully, climate change and the environment. Because I want, when my fifth grandbaby in 2079 is my age today, I want the world to be inhabitable. I want there to be food production. I want there to be, quality of life that we enjoy. And unless we start doing something now, odds aren't real good.
Absolutely. Mark, this has been wonderful. It's been inspiring, enlightening. It's just been fabulous. And I thank you so much for sharing all of this with people. And I know that you've inspired people. And when this gets put up, your contact information will be there. Is that okay? So people can say, I want to help. That would
be
okay, good. And thank you again. This has just been so lovely. So you and I will talk some more.
Sounds good.
Share some information. So thank you again for taking all this time because I know how busy you are. So I appreciate it.
Pleasure's all mine. Thank you again, Diane.
Okay, good. I'll wait for the next time when I get to talk to you. Take care, Mark.
Thank you, dear.
So thank you all of you who have joined us today and heard all this wonderful stuff that Mark has to say, and I'm trying to figure out how to do this. Bye-bye. Here you go. Okay, here we go back. And I want to thank you for joining us on the journey with Mark today and all of the wonderful things that he's doing. And I hope that you can see that you have something to contribute to, that there is some piece that you can contribute to the world to make it a better, kinder, gentler, more humane culture and society for everybody. And as Mark talked about, for the future. And he's just demonstrating what's possible, and it's possible for everybody. We don't have to do it at that scale. You do it at the level at which you can. So thank you. And remember, by working together, we can change the world, and we are changing the world, and we will continue to change the world, and you're a part of that. So thank you for joining us on Holistic Transformations. And today we're brought to you by Turn Your Great Idea into Dollars, the 7-week online course and workbook taking you step by step from concept to a working business based on the business model that fits for you. I'm your host, Diane J. Shaver, inviting you to join us the next time to meet and be inspired by another person who's out there and doing what is in their heart to do to make this a better world. And I hope, again, that they inspire you. And I will see you next time. Bye-bye.
For more wonderful shows like this, please go to selfdiscoveryradio.com, podcasts, and see our lineup. And if you wish to support us, we have a funded button. Please stay tuned for our next show.